I'm just waiting. I'm waiting for the live stream to start.
Oh, it can be.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhansa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Adanta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Mayam Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Navadip Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulsi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Maharaj. Welcome everyone to Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayadvaita Swami. Today is Monday, March 27th, 2023, and it's a day later in India, and we are reading in the third canto, 15th chapter, Description of the Kingdom of God. Tonight we are starting with text number 38. As always, we're eager to hear everyone's comments and questions, so please use the raised hand feature in Zoom, or simply unmute yourself and speak when Maharaj asks for questions, or you can type your comments into the chat window. Also, please do not send any chat messages don't post any chat messages into the chat if Maharaj is reading something at that moment, because it makes it a little spastic. At the end of class, I will post some helpful links that you can share with your friends so they can attend as well. We're glad that you could join us all the way from India, Maharaj. Tonight, what city are you in?
Mumbai.
Mumbai. Okay, thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Tulsi Priya. And thank you to all. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tam Tvagatam Pratifritau Paikam Sapumbhis Te Chakshataksha Vishayam Swasamadhi Bhagyam Hangsasriyor Vyajanayo Shivavayu Lolach Supratapatra Shashikeshara Shikarambhum. The sages, headed by Shanak Rishi, saw that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, who was formerly visible only within their hearts in ecstatic trance, had now actually become visible to their eyes. As he came forward, accompanied by his own associates, bearing all paraphernalia, such as an umbrella and a chamra fan, white bunches of hair moved very gently, like two swans, and due to their favorable breeze, the pearls garlanding the umbrella also moved like drops of nectar falling from the white full moon, or ice melting due to a gust of wind. Purport: in this verse, we find the word achakshataksha vishayam. The Supreme Lord cannot be seen by ordinary eyes, but he now became visible to the eyesight of the Kumars. Another significant word is samadhi bhagyam. Meditators who are very fortunate can see the Vishnu form of the Lord within their hearts by following the yogic process. But to see him face to face is a different matter. This is only possible for pure devotees. The Kumars, therefore, upon seeing the Lord coming forward with his associates, who were holding an umbrella and a chamra fan, were struck with wonder that they were seeing the Lord face to face. It is said in the Brahma Samhita that devotees, being elevated in love of God, always see Sham Sundar, Supreme Personality of Godhead, within their hearts. But when they are mature, the same God is visible before them, face to face. For ordinary persons, the Lord is not visible. However, when one can understand the significance of his holy name and one engages himself in the devotional service of the Lord, beginning with the tongue, by chanting and tasting prasad. Then gradually the Lord reveals himself. Thus the devotee constantly sees the Lord within his heart. And in a more mature stage, one can see the same Lord directly as we see everything else. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurn Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tathati Shapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Jatapada Kamalang Shri Gurun Vaishnavanscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Gaganatan Vitam Stam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Vijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lolita Sri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kamshana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hori Priye Vansha Kolpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindho Pyevacha Patita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadham Shiva Shari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. As we'll recall, a controversy had broken out between the four sages and the doorkeepers, Jai and Vijay, and the Lord himself came to deal with the matter. So Tam Agatam, as he came, he was accompanied by his associates, the Punghi, who were carrying various items of paraphernalia, an umbrella which is poetically described as having drops of nectar dripping from the edges, pearls described in that way. And now, Achakshata Aksha Vishayam, the personality of Godhead is not ordinarily seen, but they were seeing what is that? The Lord, Namam, Naham Prakasha Sarvasya Yoga Maya Samabhita Uto Yam Nabhijanati. The Lord is generally hidden from view by his internal energy, Yoga Maya. So fools, ordinary rooted workers and mental speculators can't see him. But Dhyana Vastita Tad Gatena Manasa Pashanti Yam Yoginam. The yogis can see him within their hearts. The devotees can see him within their hearts. The Kumaras could see him within their hearts, but now they were seeing him face to face. The same thing happened to Dhruva Maharaj. He was meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead within. And then the Lord suddenly disappeared from his inner vision. And Dhruva's meditation broke. But when he opened his eyes, he saw there was that same Supreme Personality of Godhead present face to face. The Prabhupada describes that when one is mature in yoga, this becomes possible. When one is mature in pure devotional service, this becomes possible. It's interesting to see, what is that? Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Bilokayanti. We hear that the saintly persons or devotees can see the Shyam Sundar always within their hearts. And we might wish that we had that level of advancement to be able to see Shyam Sundar always within our hearts. But in the purport, Prabhupada speaks of that as a lesser stage. Higher than that is to see the personality of Godhead face to face. The Prabhupada describes, for an ordinary person, he's not visible, but he gradually reveals himself when one understands the significance of the holy name and engages in devotional service, beginning with the tongue by chanting and tasting prasad. So the perfection is described, and the process of achieving that perfection is also described. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that the sweetness of the Lord is being described here and in coming verses. And he mentions that we're getting a description of the Lord's transcendental form. But form is the chakshata. Form is seen with the eyes, chakshu. But then there are other sensory modalities, ways of perception, by sound, by aroma, and so on. So the sages experienced the Lord that way also. It's not that only form was visible, but the Lord's scent, the transcendental sound vibration is associated with the Lord. Everything was manifest. All right, are there some? Yes, there is. Tulsi Priya has a hand.
There's a comment in the chat box from Saraswati Mataji,
Okay.
and then I have a question.
You elaborate on understanding further the significance of the holy name. Since we know all liberated souls in the spiritual and material worlds always relish chanting the holy names, the Maha Mantra. So it's clear chanting of the holy names isn't merely a means to become purified and go back to Godhead. The Namachintamani Krishna Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha Purna Shuddha Nityamukta. I have something here. Benaton Nami. Hold on one second. not out of the woods yet. Abhinatanam, there's no difference between the personality of Godhead and the holy name of the Lord. So as the sages were relishing the form of the Lord, we can also relish equally the presence of the Lord in transcendental sound. And Prabhupada emphasizes that sound is more important, seeing is more important, and more accessible, certainly. Could you say more about the holy name? I mean, that becomes endless Krishna Katha. Our literature is full of glorification of the holy name of the Lord. But the summary is that the holy name of the Lord is the Lord in person. There's no difference between the two. There's no difference between the two. There's another comment here from Kendrick. Is there? Yes. So, since the Kumars are clearly said to have already seen the personality of Godhead within their hearts, and were able to enter Vaikuntha and see him there, it seems their inclination toward the impersonal feature of the Absolute is quite different from the sort of impersonalists we typically see. For sure. Of course, typically what we see now in the Kali Yuga, and especially in the West, are just sort of Mayavadi knockoffs, you can almost say. They're not serious philosophy. Like Shankaracharya and his followers are serious transcendentalists. I remember one time on Padayatra, we went to Kanchipuram, which is one of the 4 seats of the Shankara Sampradaya. And the Shankaracharya that is the present head of the Sampradaya at Kanchipuram, was a revered person. He traveled on foot all over India. He was austere. He was of saintly character. And I remember he was an effulgent person. He was sitting very simply on a wooden platform. And you could see that this was not your ordinary fellow. But he was clearly a person advanced in spiritual cultivation. And Lokanath Maharaj asked him for a blessing for the Padayatra. He said, I wish that Harinam shine all over the world. And he asked us to do kirtan. So this is different from your typical American impersonalist who says, yeah, I think that actually everything's one, you know what I mean? And actually we're all God, I mean, it's just a sort of a dime store made in China, kind of poor plastic substitute for a genuine impersonalist sage. So the Kumars were certainly different from them, but your point, they're also different from those who are, it seems, what would you say, absolutely committed to an exclusively impersonal idea of the absolute truth. Nothing is going to be of interest to us except merging into the absolute oneness, which is the only reality. That's the general impersonalist objective. And we do hear that the sages were in some way affected by that idea, or inclined toward that idea, or committed toward that idea. But it was not unalloyed commitment to impersonalism. They were thrilled to see the personality of Godhead. And here even they're described as pure devotees of the Lord, because no one could see the Lord except for pure devotees. Of course, we do hear elsewhere that sages like Durvasa, who were not pure devotees, are sometimes admitted into Vaikuntha for some brief time or brief visit. That may sometimes be. But certainly these Kumaras were extraordinarily qualified. They were not your ordinary offensive practitioners of the Mayavadi school. Hope that's all. Tulsi Priya has her hand up.
Thank you, Maharaj. So as I was reading along with you on this purport, I was thinking about, it says that only the pure devotees can see Krishna. When they're mature, they can see Krishna face to face. And for ordinary persons, the Lord is not visible. And I was thinking how, since the very beginning, I've been taught that the deity is Krishna himself. And it's his mercy on us that we're able to serve him, in the deity form, dress him, feed him, bathe him, and literally see him face to face. But there's Prabhupada also said, if you simply think of him as stone, he will remain forever a stone. And there are these stories of devotees who have very personal, intimate dealings with their Murti form. I'm thinking of Shakshi Gopal and the young Brahmana, who spoke to him, and they basically, struck up a bargain together. And then there's that other story of the young son of the Brahmana who was told by his father to feed the deity, and he was doing it, and he sat there until the deity ate the offering. And then the mother was saying, that it was, the father didn't have the same faith as the child. So when I think of the deity, I take it on faith that Krishna is there, but I certainly don't have that realization. Otherwise, I would have a very different reaction to seeing him. But I guess what I'm asking is Krishna manifest in the deity to the degree of our faith, or is he completely there and I'm simply covered and not seeing him fully?
Well, whether he's manifest sort of implies visible. Mm-hmm. But is he present? He's present. Mm-hmm. What is that? Andantarasta paravana chayatarasta. He's present everywhere. He's present everywhere. We may not see him, and therefore he becomes present as the form of the deity, to make himself visible even to our unqualified eyes. But he's, even before you make the deity, if you're making a deity out of sand, or you're making a deity out of a mental image, he's there. He doesn't wait to have a form fashioned that's visible to us. He's already there with full power. That same personality of Godhead is present everywhere. His form is present everywhere, but he's only visible to the devotees. That's mentioned in the purport of Chakshata. They saw the personality of Godhead, who's normally not seen. So where's the yogis, they don't need a deity. They see the deity within their hearts. And those who are still more advanced don't need to see the Lord in their hearts. They see him face to face. But it's not that we think, oh, the deity is just for the neophytes. And once I see him face to face, then I don't need this deity anymore. The devotees of the highest level, like Rupa Goswami and others, Sanatana Goswami, were worshiping the deity with pure love and seeing the deity as the personality of Godhead, not seeing this as a representation of the Lord. They're seeing here's the Lord. But he's always there. He's always there. Okay,
So
there's
if we,
another comment in the chat box. Couple of my condolences, first of all, for the passing away of Jayadvaita Swami. I know that the pure devotees may not physically be present, but they're present in spirit. I'm fortunate to get the opportunity to translate Maharaj's books into French. Please give me your blessings that I can have the intelligence to carry out this service. Well, blessings for sure. Translating his books into French will be a very valuable contribution. And thank you for the condolences. Condolences generally implies sympathy and very sad event. But Maharaj's disappearance was so glorious that it's hard for me to be sorrowful at his departure, although certainly his not having his association is unfortunate, but his departure was so glorious that it's hard to feel, for me, feel sorrowful. But yes, he's wonderful. Saraswati says, we're told there are innumerable planets in Vaikuntha, where there are slight differences in the form of Lord Narayan or Vishnu in terms of what their hands are holding. Are there other differences present that determine and affect the attraction of various devotees that ultimately go there for service or already reside there based on their rasa? There's no, I wouldn't see a difference in rasa there. Everything in Vaikuntha is in the mood of service with awe and reverence. There's no friendship. There's no parental love. There's no conjugal love. Or limited. The Lord has a relationship with Lakshmi Devi, but the devotees, other than the Lord's direct consort, have the relationship of worshiping the Lord in awe and reverence. And I don't see any, I'm not aware of any difference. If this Vaikuntha planet gives you this kind of relationship, that gives you another relationship. They're all, it seems, equal in that regard. I don't have anything else to add about differences between the Vaikuntha planets. Okay, anything else? Let us go forward. Krishna prasada sumukham sprihani atama Snehavaloka kalaya hridisam sprishantam Prane pratav urasiv shobhitaya Vyasvash Udamanim Subhagayantam Ivat Nadishyam. The Lord is the reservoir of all pleasure. His auspicious presence is meant for everyone's benediction, and his affectionate smiling and glancing touch the core of the heart. The Lord's beautiful bodily color is blackish, and his broad chest is the resting place of the goddess of fortune, who glorifies the entire spiritual world, the summit of all heavenly planets. Thus it appeared that the Lord was personally spreading the beauty and good fortune of the spiritual world. Purport. When the Lord came, he was pleased with everyone. Therefore it is stated here, Krishna Prasad Sumukham. The Lord knew that even the offensive doormen were his pure devotees, although by chance they committed an offense at the feet of other devotees. To commit an offense against a devotee is very dangerous in devotional service. Lord Chaitanya therefore said that an offense to a devotee is just like a mad elephant run loose. When a mad elephant enters a garden, it tramples all the plants. Similarly, an offense onto the feet of a pure devotee murders one's position in devotional service. On the part of the Lord, there is no offended mood, because he does not accept any offense created by his sincere devotee. But a devotee should be very cautious of committing offenses at the feet of another devotee. The Lord, being equal to all and being especially inclined to his devotee, looked as mercifully at the offenders as at the offended. This attribute of the Lord was due to his unlimited quantity of transcendental qualities. His cheerful attitude toward the devotees was so pleasing and heart-touching that his very smile was attractive for them. That attraction was glorious, not only for all the higher planets of this material world, but beyond, for the spiritual world also. Generally, a human being has no idea of what the constitutional position is in the higher material planets, which are far better constituted in regard to all paraphernalia. Yet the Vaikuntha planet is so pleasing and so celestial that it's compared to the middle jewel or locket in a necklace of jewels. So there's more to the purport before we continue. Let's look at what we've covered so far. The Lord was Krishna Prasada Sumukham. He was pleased with everyone, and Prabhupada comments that he was equally merciful toward the offended, and the offenders. The Lord took into account they're all devotees, so the Lord wasn't offended, and yet still we should be cautious, exceedingly cautious about offending devotees. I remember one time there was one devotee in New York who was getting on my nerves. Just by his nature, he was, whatever it was about the chemistry, he was getting on my nerves, and I was sort of grumbly about him, I suppose, at least in my mind, and probably not always so congenial toward him. And then Prabhupada came to New York, and that devotee was doing some service for Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was pleased. And I thought, what kind of fool am I that Prabhupada likes him? What's wrong with me? So we can take that into account here, that the Lord, the Kumaras were all, first of all, the doormen were, what's the word? Aggressive or suspicious of the Kumaras. Why are they here? Why should we let them in? That they may be imposters, who knows? They certainly, so they had their view of the Kumaras, and the Kumaras also had their view of the Jai and Vijay, that they must be imposters with this attitude of being prickly toward devotees. They can't be. This is not the Vaikuntha mood. This is not the Lord's mood. So this controversy broke out between the two sets of devotees. But the Lord was pleased with both. The Lord didn't consider that, well, the Kumaras are great sages, so they're more, I'll take their side, or the doormen are my personal Vaikuntha associates, so I'll take their side. The Lord was pleased with everyone. So one should see everyone in relationship to the Lord. What is it? Yasmin sarvani bhutani atmaiva bhuvijanata tatrako mahankashoka ekatvam anupashita. One should see everyone in relationship to the personality of Godhead. And certainly we should avoid offenses to devotees. That's a big topic. At least we should be reminded again and again not to offend devotees. Trudamanim, Swachudamanim, the spiritual planets, the heavenly planets are the highest in the material world, but the planets here, Vaikuntha planets, are superior to that realm. In this verse, well, let's see, there's some comments, I think. When Prabhupada said we would be going back to Godhead, which planet was he referring to? Of course, all the planets are, one can go back to Godhead either by going to Vaikuntha or by going to Goloka Vrindavan. But Srila Prabhupada directs us especially toward Goloka Vrindavan. That's the focus of our attention. In back to Godhead for us means back to the original personality of Godhead, Krishna. Prabhupada comments in Bhagavad Gita, not to any other form, but to the original. Since we are in Kali Yuga, aren't all of us impure? Yes, we all are. But then by chanting Hare Krishna, one can be purified. Panchatattva says, my daughter Sharanagati shared this quote from Prabhupada the other day. Even if devotees excuse those who insult them, Krishna takes a different position, and he's strict on this matter. Krishna will not excuse or tolerate any insult of his devotees. If we want to please Krishna, we must never insult his devotees. Lecture 1973. So yes, that's there. Generally, we hear that the devotees may forgive some offense, but the Lord takes it very seriously. But here the Lord just didn't seem to take it very seriously. That's the Lord's prerogative also. It's not that because it says in Scripture that the Lord takes it very seriously, then the Lord has to come and what's the word? It has to come angrily to the gate of Vaikuntha and chastise whichever party he finds most at fault. Of course, in the coming chapters, we'll find the Lord speaking very beautifully about his affection to his devotees. And in that context, we can understand that one should never offend a devotee. But here the Lord didn't seem to take it as a great, he seemed more intent on solving the controversy or restoring peace among sorting out the situation, let's say, rather than angrily displaying rage with either party. Yes, Tulsi Priya.
I was just thinking that when Prahlad Maharaj was being tortured by his father, the Lord manifested an extremely angry form. And I was just wondering if his anger is relative to the defenselessness of the devotee, like Prahlad was just a little boy.
Relative to what?
If it's relative to the defenselessness of the devotee, as Prahlad was a little boy, defenseless.
Well, that was there, but
I'm sorry?
That was there, that the Lord was particularly outraged that offenses had been committed toward this innocent child. But it's not just measurable, that the Lord, you can calibrate according to some scientific scale how the Lord is going to respond. We know the basic principles of his concern from Shastra, but he's always free to behave as he likes, to surprise us, or to have his own take on things. So he can be like Putana. You'd expect that the Lord would just totally respond with vengeance. She killed so many innocent children, she tried to kill him. And instead he responded with mercy and gave her astonishingly a position like his mother. He could have, we could say, all right, she was a demon and the Lord gives liberation even to the demons. But he gave more than liberation. He gave her a position on the level of Yashodamani. So that's the Lord's nature. He's not bound to fulfilling our expectations or what we think we've understood from Shastric injunctions. He's the independent personality of Godhead always. Okay, there's one here. Saraswati, sometimes devotees become so competitive. I remember I made ice cream from scratch to offer to Gurudev. As I went to serve it, I was elbowed and pushed aside by a devotee who served it herself, which really upset me. I went away sulking. Later, I was called to present myself by Gurudev. I have no idea how he knew I was sulking. He asked me if I'd made the ice cream and said he enjoyed it. I felt utterly foolish at having been upset. Our minds become quite small in the presence of Krishna. Let's continue in the purport. In this verse, the words Sprihaniya Dhamma indicate that the Lord is the reservoir of all pleasure, because he has all the transcendental qualities. Although only some of these are aspired for by persons who hanker after the pleasure of merging in the impersonal Brahma, there are other aspirants who want to associate with the Lord personally as his servants. The Lord is so kind that he gives shelter to everyone, both impersonalists and devotees. He gives shelter to the impersonalists in his impersonal Brahman effulgence, whereas he gives shelter to the devotees in his personal abodes, known as the Vaikuntha Lokas. He's especially inclined to his devotee. He touches the core of the heart of the devotee simply by smiling and glancing over him. The Lord is always served in the Vaikuntha Loka by many hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune, as stated by the Brahma Samhita. Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahman Sevyamam. In this material world, one is glorified if he's favored even by a pinch of the goddess of fortune. So we can simply imagine how glorified is the kingdom of God in the spiritual world, where many hundreds and thousands of goddesses of fortune engage in the direct service of the Lord. Another feature of this verse is that it openly declares where the Vaikuntha Lokas are situated. They're situated as the summit of all the heavenly planets, which are above the sun globe at the upper limit of the universe, and are known as Satyaloka or Brahmaloka. The spiritual world is situated beyond the universe. Therefore, it is stated here that the spiritual world, like Vaikuntha Loka, is the summit of all planetary systems. The Priti Samsprishantam, the Lord, the hearts of the devotees. It wasn't just a sort of external exchange, but the Lord goes right to the heart of the devotee by his form, by his qualities, by his feelings. He touches the very heart of the devotee. Right. Anything else here? the don't know if I'm going to the next verse. Well, let's look at Vishwanath's commentary. The Kumaras were filled with doubt. We don't know if the Lord's angry with us for cursing his two doorkeepers. If the Lord had a pleasing face, internally and externally, they felt inner joy. Oh, he's fully pleased. The Lord was the abode of beauty, sweet sound, fragrance, youth, mercy, and generosity, desired by the eye and other senses of the sages. Jai and Vijay wept in lamentation. Since we will fall down, burned by the fire of the Brahman's curse, we will no longer see the Lord's sweetness. The Lord responded to them. He touched the hearts of all present by the skill of his affectionate glance. How affectionate he is to his devotees. In this way, he attracted their minds. With Lakshmi in the form of a golden lion situated on his left upper chest, he was the abode of Vaikuntha, Atmadishnya, which was the crest jewel among all planets, starting with Svarga and ending with Satyaloka. Seeing this, everyone became most fortunate. This will also be explained later. The sweetness of his mercy and form were realized and understood by the mind and eye. Then there's a comment from Kendra. The spiritual world is stated to be so far above this mundane plane that it's extraordinary we're even able even to conceive of going there, considering our present limitations. Yeah, going back to Godhead, even if you think about going to, I just heard that our Jayadvaita Maharaj is going to Cuba next month. He's Spanish, so there's no restrictions. But as an American, for me to go to Cuba would be difficult. I can't even go to Cuba, which is not very far from Miami. And here we're thinking about going to Vaikuntha, where such qualifications of purity or qualification of love of Godhead are needed. So as you've said, it's above the mundane plane. It's more than just a question of geography. Well, you just go a little higher than Satyaloka. You just push on through a little higher, and there you'll be in Vaikuntha. That's the geography given, that it's above Svarga, the heavenly planets, and above Satyaloka, the abode of Brahma. But more important, it's in a realm where a realm permeated by the consciousness of pure love. Love of the Lord for the devotee and love of all the inhabitants for the Lord. So, yes, so ambitious we are that we want to go there. And Anand Vishesh says the portal has to open. Yes. Should we have kirtan to close up?
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Om Shrad Punman Supri Prajak Charja Stotra Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Raj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Sri Sri Radha Krishna Gopinath Sham Kundradha Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavan Tham Ki Jai Navadip Tham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Ki Jai Gangamai Ki Jai Jamunamai Ki Jai Bhuti Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Mahesh Pandit Prabhu.
Jai Maharaj, Hari Bol.
Hari Bol, Gurudas Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, God.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Maharaj. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight.
Thank you,
Please
Maharaj.
share those class links with your friends, and I hope we can see you again on Wednesday for the Srimad Bhagavatam class. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Holiness Jayadvaita Maharaj Ki Jai.
Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki
Jai.
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 Premanande.
Hari Bol.